when I was a teenager at 15, I decided to start going to church. My parents never pushed it. I just started going. I went through a youth group. I became part of the church. And then for 2 years, I was so heavily involved in that church that it became my entire life. I mean, like 5 times a week, I was going to church on top of school, on top of job, all that stuff. So it became my whole life. And then my plan was to become a youth pastor. That was my plan. When I graduate school, I want to go to an institute and I want to become a youth pastor. But then one day, I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, if I'm going to commit my life to something so strong, I don't want to be the guy that's standing in the same church for so many years talking to the same people about the same stuff. I want to go and I want to spread this word to the people that don't tend to hear it. And then I thought about the military. So, damn, that would be pretty bold to join the military. And like, not as a chaplain, but to join and just kind of set an example for what I was trying to do. So I thought, okay, of the military, who are the real hard dogs? Now, of course, you have like the special forces and special operations. So you have SEALs and Delta Force and things like that. But then I thought of the general military, the Marine Corps, they're the lunatics. So if I'm going to do this, if I'm going to go big or go home, I'm going to join the Marine Corps. I'm going to be a Marine and I'm going to spread the word. That was my plan. My senior year of high school is when I made this decision. So from the time that I started my senior year and I had my plan to go be a youth pastor, I swapped it up and I joined the delayed entry program as a Marine, so that once I graduated high school at 17 years old, as long as I turned 18 before my graduation date, I could join. I didn't need my parents to sign off on me as long as I was 18 before I graduated on October 9th, which was exactly how it was. 3 days early, I turned 18 and I graduated. But the thing was, my date to leave for Parris Island, South Carolina was like August 4th, 1998. I graduated high school. I had a couple weeks off. It was glorious, freedom. And then boom, I got this call. Hey, if you want to get your wish in the Marine Corps, you have to leave for boot camp tonight. And it was like 3 weeks early. Now I say my wish. I decided that if I was going to join the Marine Corps and I was going to spread this message, I'm not going to be a guy behind the desk. I'm not going to be the chaplain. I'm going to be the guy on the ground with my boots, with my weapon, with every other grunt. That's where I need to be on the ground with these guys. So that's what I did. I said, I want to join this specific unit, which was called FAST Company, Fleet Anti-Terrorism Security Team Company. So that's what I wanted to do. And then beyond that, I wanted to be like an infantryman. He said, if you want to do that, I can't guarantee it unless you go to boot camp tonight. All that to say, I said, okay. I called my mom. I was with my best friend at the time. I said, hey, I have to leave tonight. It was the one time that I saw my dad cry was when I left that day. He didn't even know it was coming. And my dad and I weren't really close. He came home and I was like, Dad, I have to leave for boot camp tonight. And I actually saw him be affected by that. So I left for boot camp that night, and I will tell you, I was in the hotel in Boston that night, 17 years old, and I was friggin' terrified. I remember laying in that bed, and I cried a bit because it was really the first time that I'd been away from home, and I wasn't joining because I wanted to be this like, blah, 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 blah. That wasn't me. I had like a specific mission in mind. And I said, okay, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to go big. And I made that decision. So there was a part of me, yes, that was there for the fact that I wanted to serve my country. I wanted to do something big with my life. But there was this other meta level to that where there was more to it. It wasn't just about patriotism for me. There was kind of a greater mission involved. So that's why I joined at 17. That's why I went early. And that's essentially why I joined. Now, I'll tell you this. Since I was 17 and I joined, and I got through my Marine Corps time, I carried my faith. Nothing ever changed. It was only later as I got older and I got more life experience, it started to kind of take different shapes along the way. But I'll tell you this, one of the moments I will never, ever forget, we were on Mount Fuji and it was nighttime. It was so friggin' cold. And I was part of a weapons platoon, and they were all circled around me, and I was talking to them. I was talking to them about the message that was my message to give. I was essentially preaching. Now, I wasn't saying like, hey, everybody here, sit down and listen. No, this was consensually. These guys were asking questions and they wanted these answers, and we just had a conversation. I wasn't giving a sermon. I wasn't going crazy. It was literally a conversation, a discussion between all of us on Mount Fuji. And it was like the moment where I knew I had made the right decision. And even though I knew that things did not necessarily turn out the way that I thought they would, that in that moment, I was exactly where I was supposed to be. And I feel like since that day, or since other days like that, there have been these little pockets of time where I can say, that was kind of a bookmark. That was a bookmark that said, you're right where you're supposed to be. How you got here might not be so important, but you're right here, and this is where you should be. I don't know if that really answers a lot of y'all's questions, but yeah, that's kind of part of the story of why I joined the Marine Corps.